Our name's a lot longer.
Yeah, our name's a lot longer. It's called the BOITS. It stands for Bigfoot Organization for Investigating Tracks and Sightings. And this is the ground floor. I'm just now starting this. This is my first meeting. So this is kind of all new to me, and so y'all just kind of bear with me and know that this is my first one. But I plan on having a whole lot more of it, and I think I already told everybody there's a lot of pictures here and some material that you can have. I want to start with these pictures right quick here. This right here is a track that when I went to the Bigfoot Festival, the first year they have it up home of me, Oklahoma. That's way down south in the mountains, and it's way in the mountains. Believe me. But we drove way up on top of the mountain with a couple of friends of mine and me, and of course he had a four-wheel drive, so if he hadn't had that four-wheel drive, we couldn't have even got where we was at. It was that far up there. And so we got out, we started walking around. I had my camera with me, and I seen this footprint right here, so I took a picture of it. And this one, and I'm not even sure that's a footprint, but it just looked kind of odd when I seen it, because there was two of them, two places just like this together, about 2 or 3 feet apart, you know. And but that was took up in the Ozark Mountains. Me and a friend of mine went up there, and we was pretty high, or pretty far back in the mountains. And yeah, thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I seen that, and so I took a picture of it. And so, like I said, I'm not sure it's correct, but it's something that kind of unusual to me. This one, I took this, and I don't remember where I took it. But that, I mean, and it's a track of some kind. I'm not saying it's a Bigfoot track, but anyway, I found it kind of interesting. This one right here, if any of you has ever watched that BFRO show, they say that big feet sometimes will make huts like this to stay in. And this was over in the Comanche Mountains, and way down the back road, pretty far down the road there. I drove probably 7 or 8 miles back into the mountains, and come across this hut, and it was, you kind of see, it's just made out of limbs and leaves and things like that. But I just found that off the road there in the mountains. So, and that's all the pictures I took. Now these other ones came from the internet. I got them off the internet. And these two here, these 3, came from the Survivor Man show. I just took a picture of it when it was on TV, because he was out looking for Bigfoot, and these are actually, they say that Big Feet make these kind of tree things like this, and I don't know, even the Survivor Man, I mean, he spent his whole life out in the woods and been out there, spent a lot of hours out in there, and he said
That's the Littlefoot, the orang pendek.
Yeah, that's a little guy.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Papua New Guinea.
yeah, that's somewhere over there. But anyway, just another name. United States, of course, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Renegade, Hairy Man, Wood Ape, Honey Island, Swamp Monster, and there's probably more. But anyway, of course, some of their favorite foods, deer and green apples. I don't know if any of you ever heard about that, but I met a guy down at the Bigfoot Festival, and he's had encounters with him, and he said that he has got him to come into his property by putting out green apples away from his house a little bit, and they came up there after them green apples. And he actually showed me a photo on his cell phone, a picture he took of one of them, and it's close. I mean, it's about like looking at this one right here. It's not quite that close, but I mean, you can make out the facial features and all that. But sometimes they can be hostile. Most of the time, you know, if they see you, most of the time they'll just turn the other way and walk away most of the time. In January 1959, in Russia, there was 9 hikers killed. They claimed by a Bigfoot. That's what they claimed because they was one of the cameras left in the tent that they found. The last picture they took was of a Bigfoot. It actually showed a picture of it. And one of the diaries left in the tent when they went through it, one of the hikers had wrote in there, "The snowman lives." So they claim that that's what killed these 9 hikers. So, like I say, most of the time, you know, they're not, you know, they'll just turn around and walk the other way most of the time. There is a few instances where, you know, they have attacked a person, but it's not very likely. There's been Bigfoot sightings in every state except Hawaii. So, you know, there's an estimated 5,000 Bigfoots in North America. Most people wouldn't think that, but that's what they estimate. In 2013, there have been more than 400 sightings in the U.S. And, you know, I've been asked a lot of times, well, why don't, you know, if they're out there, why don't you see more of them? You know, but you got to realize there's been thousands of witnesses that have seen it. And just because you hadn't seen it don't mean it don't exist. You know, a lot of people get in their head, well, you know, if they hadn't seen it, it can't be real, it can't exist. Well, let me ask you a question. Have any of you ever seen a fox up in the tree?
A what?
A fox up in the tree? And the rest of you? They can't climb a tree. I've seen it, he's seen it, but you ask the majority of people, they'd say, no, that's not possible. I haven't seen it, that's not possible. But I've seen it and he's seen it. White albino skunk, how many of you have ever seen one of them? Okay. But, you know, a lot of people say, well, you know, I don't believe that there's such a thing, but they're out there, we've seen them, you know. It's the same way as Bigfoot. You know, it ain't like they're plenteous like deer or raccoon or something like that. I mean, you know, sure, there's estimated 5,000 in North America, but, you know, you got to take into consideration how many deer is in North America, how many raccoons. And a scientist did a study on, they tied up a deer, staked out a deer out in the woods because the question was asked, staked out, put a time-lapse camera up, pointing towards the deer. And in 2 weeks' time, the whole deer was gone. Bones, meat, skin, everything was gone in 2 weeks. Well, since there's a lot more deer than there are Bigfoot, how hard do you think it would be to come across bones? Because animals will take the bones and go off into the woods, carry them off to eat them, and drag them here and there, and so, you know, you're not very likely to find bones, you know? I mean, that'd be pretty recent. But, and then there's a man put out some trail cameras, and he said that he's had them out and looked for them for like 30, 40 years. And he said in that whole span of time, he said he's only seen 2. So I mean, you know, they're hard to find. If you spend that much time, you've only seen 2 of them. You know they're out there, but they're just hard to find. I've got friends that has had encounters. A friend of mine at work, he said he was a skeptic. He did not believe in Bigfoot. He was a skeptic. He was driving his motorcycle down by Pipe Springs. I mean, know where that's at. But he was coming up on Pipe Springs and he saw Bigfoot going into the woods. I talked to Talamina State Park ranger. He said he's seen one down at Eufaula, by Eufaula Lake. A friend of mine back in the 70s, he said him and some guys was camping down Hollis Lake at Van Buren back in the 70s, and he said that they encountered one. Said that night they was camping and they heard this sound over next to them, and so they had a spotlight, they shined it over there, and said it was a Bigfoot. They said he put one foot on the top of a fence, barbed wire fence, and smashed it clear to the ground and started coming toward him. And they said when they went into this place, they said they had to go through this gate. And he said when it took off after it, said they left everything. They just ran and hopped in the truck or Jeep or whatever it was and took off. And said when they came to the gate, they didn't stop to open it, they just went through it. So, one of the guys I worked with on this job that I've got now, he said 30 and 40 years ago, his dad seen one down at Boonville Lake. It was going through some big patch of briars. And they said that evening, the next day, they went out there and looked around, and they said the briars was so thick in there. They said a human man, it would have cut them to pieces going through there. So they knew it couldn't have been a man that they seen. And I talked to several people at the Bigfoot Festival, and that had seen a Bigfoot, and one of the guys was saying that this last year when he said, the BFRO group came down here and done a TV series down here, and you know, and he said I was in it. I was one of the witnesses, and at first, you know, I kind of thought, okay, and then here about a week ago, I turned on the TV and right there on the TV was that guy that was telling me that he was going to be on TV. He's one of the witnesses, and sure enough, there he was. And the BFRO group was doing
What is
BFRO? Well, it stands for Bigfoot
Research.
Field research.
Organization.
Field research,
Thank you, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, the show's Finding Bigfoot on Animal
Yeah.
Planet.
It's on cable on Animal Planet.
Anyway, so they was down there, and so he got his cell phone and flipped it over and showed me a picture of him and Cliff. That's one of the guys in the show. Showed me a picture of him and Cliff standing there together, so I know he was telling me the truth. big area. Some of it's in Oklahoma. But, matter of fact, there's 47,000 square miles of it. And I didn't know it was that big. But as of January 13th, there's been 350 Bigfoot sightings in Ozark Mountains. And just one more thing I want to share with you. I have most of you probably seen it there. The counties in Oklahoma, I got a list of how many sightings was being reported in all these counties. And what struck me is interesting is LaFleur had a lot more encounters than any other county in Oklahoma.
Now, are you getting that off of the BFRO website? Is that where some of that was coming from? Yeah, okay. Well, I know I submitted a report about finding a footprint back in 2011 before we ever knew they were even over in our area there, but it did look like a footprint, but they never put it on there. I mean, I filled the whole thing out. A guy emailed me. He wanted me to send him pictures. I sent him the pictures. I never heard anything back. Really? So ever since then, I just like, well, forget it. You know, everything we found, we've just documented it and uploaded it to our YouTube channel, you know. Mm-hmm. So I just don't mess with them anymore. Because I just felt like, you know, they just kind of left me hanging and never... Right. You know, didn't even put it in there as a report in Sequoia County. Yeah.
Well,
Sequoia County?
Sequoia, yep.
Where about?
Roland. Yep.
Where are you from?
Gans?
Ah, yeah.
Well, that's why I wanted to start my own organization because, I mean, I've seen some interesting stuff from that Finding Bigfoot show, and I've learned a lot from it. Mm-hmm. But I wanted something local that people around here can get involved with, you know, and tell their story. And so I'm hoping this is going to be the start of it. But anyway, I'm anxious to hear these stories now that people got to share. And before I do that, I just want to mention, I don't know, this Bigfoot print magazine right here. If anybody's interested in buying a subscription, this is what you mail off. This address right here, in case any of you want to subscribe to it. And the Bigfoot Festival this year is going to be October the 3rd and 4th. And it's going to be in two different places. One's going to be at the Ludlow School Building, and the other one's going to be at the Community Center. But if any of you's interested in the number, I've got a number that you can call to find out more about it if you want to. But keep that in mind, and if any of you need to contact me, this is my number. You can write it down. These are some good friends of mine, Rhonda and Jean, and they've had some encounters at their place. And well, I remember when Rhonda was telling me about some of this stuff going on. I mean, man, I thought I'd almost be afraid to sleep tonight over there after some of this stuff that they encountered over there. But anyway, I'm going to ask them to come and tell what's been going on over there and what's happening to them.
I'll go first, and you can tell the good stuff.
Real quick, if anybody doesn't want to be filmed or whatever, let me know, and I won't film you.
As long as you don't give it to the FBI.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
Can I say hi to Mom?
Well, this is for YouTube. I'm trying to kind of help promote this a little bit, you know, and stuff. And
Yeah,
help get the ball rolling, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
You shaking his head, you said I had to be last because I talked too much. Now, tell us where you all are from.
Okay, I'm Rhonda, and I live in a little community called Forster, Oklahoma. If you don't know where that's at, if you know where Heidner is, okay, we're 5 miles east of there. We're right in the middle of there and the Arkansas line. I don't know the name of the mountain that we drive up to our house, but anyway.
We got Photo Mountain behind us, Walker Mountain in front of us, and we're on Highway 128 at the last red light in Heidner
But anyway, I went and I stayed with, shut up. I went and I stayed with my daughter in Indiana for 8 months. So there was noise all the time, there was lights, you know, and I got used to staying up there. So I come back home out there in the woods, and I would go to church at night, and I'd come home and I'd shut the door, and I'd be walking to the porch, and I'd feel eyes watching me. And I'd turn around and I'd look, I couldn't see anything. Well, I never mentioned it to nobody because I thought, oh, stupid, you lived in that city for 8 months, now you're scared to stay out here in the country. Okay, so this happened 2 or 3 weeks in a row. Okay, and then he told me some things that happened, and I told him my story. He will tell you all those good things. But anyway, I noticed that we had like 3 cats. They would not get out of the front yard. They would go under the house and in the front yard. And I thought, well, that's just really weird, because they just roam everywhere, back off in our woods and everything. And we have 1 chicken left. All of our other chickens and roosters, something has got them. She started roosting. They roosted in the trees. They were just free-range chickens. And they roosted out in the trees. She started roosting on our porch. And I'm like, well, that's weird, you know, because she loves out there. And she's back out there now because Bigfoot's gone. But anyway, I was up one night with our little 3-year-old granddaughter that we keep every other weekend. And I heard this noise outside, and it was like, "Grr." And I thought, oh, you stupid idiot, you're just wanting to see Bigfoot so bad that you're imagining you're hearing these things. And the 3-year-old, she looks at, great wit, this 3-year-old, she looks at me and goes, Grandma, what was that noise? And I told her, I said, oh, it was an owl, lay down, go back to sleep, because, you know, you can't tell the 3-year-old it's Bigfoot. You know, and that's what I thought it was. Well, anyway, about 15 minutes later, it was closer to the house, and it was louder, and it went, "Rrr!" And I'm like, that is Bigfoot. And I got all excited, but I couldn't go out and look out the windows and stuff because she was up, and she would want to know, so I didn't go look. Then, he will get to this other juicy part, but the BFRO did come to our property and our next door neighbors. And they were there this one weekend, and I went out and helped my daughter load the 2 granddaughters into the car to leave. Well, I went back in the house and I looked at him and I said, man, they're awful noisy out there. He goes, they're not out there tonight. And I could hear something whistle. You know, just, I can't whistle or I do it. But just make this whistling noise out behind. It sounded like it came from our buildings that we have in the back. So I'll let him fill in all the, that's my part of it. He can tell you the really good stuff. Come on up, man.
Hell, bitch, you might have called me that. Well, my name is Gene Thompson, and this is my wife, Toby. We live out in the woods, and we live about 100 yards off Highway 128. But you can't see the road because we live up on a big old hill. Well, when we first got started with this, she had heard all these things. And I'm a skeptic, or was. But I'll tell you what happened to me 2 years ago that made a believer of it. I was hunting, I'm a deer hunter. Anything else that you need, I'll hunt. But I was at Washabi Trail. He mentions Pipe Springs. Pipe Springs is about 3 miles from Washabi Trail. I was back in there where they put some food plots. The government had. Well, I was with I had a muzzleloader seat, and I sat in the north end of one of these food plots. And I don't believe Bigfoot. I have been in the woods all my life, never seen anything. I'm 65 years old, never seen anything. Well, I heard these 2 knocks, wham, wham, just like somebody beating on see me. But as I was getting ready to get my stuff and get up, my son and my daughter-in-law was out there hunting with me. My son come over there, and he's going to try to scare me. And I would come walking out of that food plot, and he said, "Boo." I said, "Boo you. Did you hear what I heard over there?" He said, "Oh, you did this." And I said, "No, I didn't do it." To this day, he probably thinks I done it to scare him, but I didn't do it. My daughter-in-law said she heard it, but she said, "I'm not sure what I heard." Well, to this day, I ain't been back over there. This hunting season, I'm going back over. Y'all taking hers, somebody back me up. But that made me think that there are Bigfoots. Well, I've got to talking to people that I know in Smithville, Oklahoma, down south of the mountains. And people down that live right there in Muse and Honuvy, all back in Batiste. I know all those people over there. So I've talked to quite a few people, and they say they're there. And I've talked to people that I'd never asked nothing about no Bigfoot before, because I knew there wasn't no Bigfoot. They said, "Yeah, man, I've seen them." I said, "No, man, you got your mind." He said, "Yeah, I've seen them." I said, "Well, I heard them, but I didn't see them." This last winter, it got real, real cold, snowy, lots of ice, rain all the time. And I noticed that.
Is everybody okay in here?
Yeah.
I noticed that all of the game had come down into this little valley between Poto Mountain and the hill that we live on. They're down this valley. There's houses in that valley. Well, my next door neighbor, he lives about probably half mile from us. Yeah. About a half mile east of it. He come to my house one morning, and he said, "Gene, are you having any trouble up there here on the hill?" I said, No, not really. He said, "Jump in, I'm going to show you what happened over my house." Got over there, he raises hunting dogs. He has chain link fence, 8 foot tall. No way I could break into it unless I had a cutter. It'd take me a few hours. These chain links were pulled apart. Now, if you're around chain link fence, grab hold of it and try to pull it apart. No, you're not going to. It's the strongest fence that you can get. You just can't pull them apart. Well, something did. And it pulled it from about that tall to the ground. And he's got part of it dug into the ground where the dog couldn't dig under. The dog was laying there. All the guts had been ripped out. The heart, the lungs, the kidneys were the only thing they were eating out of it. And it lay. He said, "What caused that?" Got to looking, we found some tracks. I said, "Well, why don't you contact the BFRO and see what they say?" Well, they sent a man up from down around Tallahena, Honuvy, somewhere down there. I didn't know him. They sent him up there and they asked me if it would be all right if I get on our land. I said, "Yeah, go ahead." Well, like she said, they were gone that night, but she kept hearing something. But one night I was awake during the time that the BFR was over there trying to find them. And something threw a rock, and this was late at night, threw a rock, and it hit on top of the house. Well, I thought maybe a limb fell. The next morning, I didn't think I knew it the next morning. The rock was about as big as twice two of my hands. And it was laying up on the house. Well, rocks don't throw themselves. I asked everybody around, I said, "Hey, was you up around my place trying to scare me or something?" Nobody been up there. Well, I found a place to where the Bigfoot had slid down this little hill behind the house. And it was probably half a length from here to the edge of the parking lot that he threw that rock. we've got a tin roof. And it put a dent in that rock, still laying there next morning. But the BFR, they found a track. I seen the track. It was in the creek on my place. The toes, the water had just about washed them out. But I could see where he slid. He wasn't wading in there. He was just trying to get down there to probably pick him up and drink water. But he didn't cross the creek. Well, since then, we've got trees that they're not broke off here. These trees are this big around. They're broke up all here, bigger, more than my hand can reach to. And I dare any 6 men in this room to grab hooked up and break it. We couldn't do it. They broke off. You don't break a tree that big around off. Because that takes a lot, it's thousands and thousands of pounds to break it over. And I mean, it's not just bent over, it's broken. But I've had lots of places that I've seen these on my place. I don't touch them, I leave them alone. I don't care for that Bigfoot being there. In fact, I want him to be there. I'd like to get some pictures of him. I'd like to make sure that people know that he is alive, because I believe it. But he killed that dog because all the deer had went down in the bottoms along the river. And he was hungry. He couldn't get anything on top of the mountain because all the game had come down into that valley. And then most of the deer had went down into the river bottoms. But from everything I've seen, I believe it. I've never come face to face, but one day I will. I hope. But I've got friends of mine that have seen them at, just this side of Spring Mountain from Pipe Springs. His truck driver coming, left the house at 1 o'clock in the morning. He saw one across the road. He's scared to death. We've had a guy up on top of Middle Mountain, that's behind my house, north of my house. Me and my wife go up there quite frequently hunting and picking blackberries and whatever. But the guy that in the sheriff's department, I was with the sheriff's department up to last year. He seen one up there across the road in front of him. He won't tell anybody in the sheriff's department. He said, "That'll happen." I told him, I believe you. And she's talked to that sheriff's deputy too. She knows who he is. And they've got ATL, which is an oil company, have been drilling up on Middle Mountain. They got several sites where they have pumps up and high pressure pumps. The other day, the ATL boy told a friend of mine, Gary, he wasn't going back up there, he had to quit his job. He told Gary, said, well, what did you say? He said, I seen a Bigfoot. Don't you tell nobody else. He said, I'm afraid to tell anybody because I know they're not going to believe me. But the Bigfoot had they got a gate around the place. The gate was just pushed over. It wasn't unhinged, just lay flat. There was no marks of a car, truck, nothing. The ground was hard, no tracks. But I think he did see the Bigfoot. But he was afraid to turn in the gate to the company because he figured they'd say, well, you run over it by mistake. Well, that gate is made out of 1.5-inch heavy drill steel. And if any of y'all you guys know what that is, you know you don't run over it, it tears the front end off. But it's just pulled up fairly flat. This is a 20-foot gate. A lot of people say they don't believe that Bigfoot could do that, but I've seen them do stuff. Like break those trees over. If you ever want to come look at the trees, they're there on place. You're welcome to come take pictures and look. And I hope we have a hard winter this year. I want him to come back down here. Because I'm gonna have trail cameras out. She's gonna be out there at night. I'm gonna go in the daytime, do my little deal. She's going at night, make sure she takes pictures of it. That's about all I got to say. Probably said too much. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Junior, appreciate it.
You gonna let my sister up there tonight?
Sure. You know she's tougher than both of us put together.
I'll go with you, Junior.
When I feel go, I'll go with you.
Sorry about that.
I noticed he kept looking at me funny.
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Well, you should have.
Yeah, you should have. Yeah, well, I appreciate that, Gene. I used to live out there pretty close to where Gene and Rhonda lived, and at this time, I didn't think much about it, but at nighttime, my back porch was facing the woods, and at nighttime, sometimes I'd be out there on the back porch, and I'd hear something big walking around through the trees back there. And of course, at that time, I didn't think about Bigfoots. I never watched the show or anything, so I didn't. But now when I look back on it, it could have been a Bigfoot tromping around back in through there at the time. So I don't know. But anyway, these three guys back here, or at least two of them I know, has got some stuff to tell. So one of y'all come up there.
All right, let me get my computer on. All right.